Hey guys, that's right, it's time for Wildrift Doctor, and it's also time for why is the brightness on my webcam so ludicrously high? Let's turn the brightness down so you can actually see my face. Boom! Welcome back, everybody. It has been a long, tough road to get to this next episode of Wildrift Doctor. For those of you who don't know, I've just got a new job, 9 to 5 essentially, so I've not published a video in 4 days, for instance, so you can kind of see that I'm relatively busy. Secondly, MBA. Just had a 3,000 word essay due in yesterday on strategic marketing, and so therefore I had to kind of commit some time to get that done, and I hadn't had as much time to play games or even just, make videos. But I'm back, hopefully, putting out some content. Thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel. Reference link in the description below. I chose this video specifically, and if any of you are wondering why I haven't chosen your video or why I may be kind of differing on what I am offering, I chose this video specifically because they mentioned it was a big comeback. Now, that either means that there was a rough early game that we can analyze, or it means that they did something really good. I don't want to see stomps in Wildrift Doctor. I just don't think I get much from commentating over them. Yeah, I can point out the good things that you did, but a lot of the times it gets to a certain point in the game where you're stomping, and it's just like, you're just crapping on them because you've got more items, and there's not much more I can say. So I like it with either losses, so we can actually talk about what went wrong, or games that are really, really bad, but you manage to make a comeback. Those are like the best kind of videos that you can submit for Wildrift Doctor, and they'll definitely give me a lot to talk about when it comes to the game. Right now, we're analyzing a gold elo game. We are focusing on Sagi or Sagi Bear. I don't know which way to say it. He's running Graves with the Phase Rush rune, which is probably the most common Graves rune in the jungle right now. So I'm fully on board with that. There are 3 runes you can run with Graves: Conqueror, Fleet Footwork, or Phase Rush. But Phase Rush is a really nice rune, just especially when it comes to team fights and skirmishes. So let's kind of work our way through that for the time being. I'm going to load up the epic pen so I can do some annotating on the screen, and we'll get going. Sorry, almost died. Testing. This is the guide that we're looking at. Testing. Cool. Hopefully you can see what I was writing on your screen. So, compositionally, you've got Tryndamere, Graves, Yasuo, Vayne, and Senna. Probably the worst Yasuo composition I've ever seen in my life, depending on where Yasuo was picked in the draft. I have no idea, but it was not a very good composition for Yasuo. And honestly, it's a very squishy comp. You've got late game scaling, all of these are this is a very heavy scaling comps. This is not going to be a comp that's going to do well in the early game. You're going up against a Garen, Lee Sin, Lux, Jinx, Seraphine. Really good early game with the Jinx late game win condition. Seraphine scales pretty well as well. Beautiful pick potential. Compositionally, and I know composition you can never really 100% get right in solo queue, but this comp sucks. So the guy that we're watching, his comp absolutely sucks. Vayne, Senna are not great synergy. Yasuo's got no one to synergize with on his team. Garen absolutely dumps on Tryndamere in the early game. It is going to be a rough one. I can tell you from the very get-go, it's going to be a rough one. So we're going to watch how it goes. Okay, so we're going to be watching my boy Sagi Bear here. Sagi Bear. He's going to be playing Graves jungle now. First rule of Graves jungle. I'm not the biggest fan of starting blue, especially versus a Lee Sin, because the natural pathing for both of these guys is going to be blue into their next buff, and then they're going to meet at River Scuttler, which is the natural pathing, right? Oh my god, someone's already died. So they will meet a River Scuttler, and Graves loses that in the early game, especially. Unless you can dodge out the Sonic Wave and dodge out a load of damage, or get a massive number of grit stacks built up, it's very difficult for Graves to outplay Lee Sin in most scenarios. So what we're seeing here from Graves, and by the way, there's a bug with the spectator mode that doesn't show when things get taken, which is super annoying. We're seeing Graves go blue to red, and I imagine that's going to be blue to red into River Scuttler. That would be the obvious pathway. This is a good way to get level 3. It's a good way to be very quick to getting to the River Scuttler, and it looks like that is what Sagi Bear is doing. There is a little trick that you can do with Graves, by the way. If you fire your basic attack and then immediately use your quick draw, you can actually get a basic attack reset and fire a basic attack really quickly. Oh, I don't like this. Okay, we're going to pause. Right. Rewind. Sagi Bear went from here into the river, and I'm guessing it's because he saw Lee Sin in the mid lane. So that is a relatively okay decision, but what we need to realize is if you look at the bot lane and look at where the enemy bot lane is, they can react very quickly. Think about your priority. You had priority mid, but River Scuttler was near bot. So you don't need to think about mid lane priority. Scratch that from your mentality. None of that. You need to think about what's going on in the bot lane when you're making this play. And what's going on in the bot lane right now is your bot lane died really early. They're under their own tower, and the enemy bot lane can walk directly towards you. This is a bad River Scuttler play, and it's because you're not thinking about the priority in the lane. And what I mean by priority is literally the enemy has pushed your bot lane into tower so they can freely walk out of lane without losing very much, and your bot lane, unfortunately, are stuck on the tower because they don't want to lose out experience. Because they need those minions, they need the gold, they need the experience. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see Jinx and Seraphine react really quickly. And they are forcing Saggy Bear away from this River Scuttler. Lots of flashes burnt here. Yasuo probably could have reacted a little quicker. And eventually Saggy Bear goes down to the Seraphine. But that wasn't a good play from Saggy Bear. Like, when you're playing jungle, the number one thing that you need to be aware of in the early game is priority in your lanes. Think about where the enemy is, and especially on that bot side of the map. Now, your bot lane, what that did do is allowed your bot lane to push that minion wave into the Jinx's tower. She might lose some experience for this. You might have given some early pressure back over towards your Vayne and Senna. But in the meantime, you should... Okay, right. Pause. Okay, right. This is risky because there is a Lee Sin, there is a Seraphine, and there is a Lux, all of whom can collapse on you very easily. Now, Yasuo cannot. For some reason, your Vayne is behind the enemy turret, and so she's not going to walk through the enemy jungle because she'll just die, and it's going to be very hard for them to react to this. If I were you, I would have just gone straight towards the top River Scuttler because no one has done that. So this is a risky play. Very, really risky. And I don't think you've got the damage right now to chase... Oh my god, I just... skipped. What did I just do? I can see that you died. I'm sorry, spoiler alert, you died. Okay. I don't think you've got the damage. Doesn't even get the kill. That's grim. That wasn't the most ideal play. And again, I think because you took a bit of an L early on, you don't want to keep continuing to look to take L's. You want to find a safe way to get some experience and get some gold and get back into the game. All that's happened now is that Garen is doing the top scuttle and you've lost the bot scuttle. You're now going to have to just passively farm your own jungle. That wasn't a good play, just simply because you need to pay attention to where people are on the map. Lee Sin, Lux, and Seraphine were so easily able to collapse on you. I understand that it was more of like I want to try and get this, especially because my bot lane is so far pushed up. But your bot lane were not in a position to react because they were playing like monkeys. So you just weren't in a very good position to react. I don't know if you thought the dragon had already spawned, but it didn't. It didn't. I'm sorry, I'm trolling you so hard now. Yeah, right now you need to focus on just getting back into the game, though. I don't know if your team's in a good enough position to fight for the first dragon. I wouldn't even bother fighting for the first dragon, given they've got a Seraphine, a Lux, a Garen. Like, their level 5 is so much better than your level 5, and there is no setup for the Yasuo. The best thing that you can do is maybe go for Rift Herald, farm as much of your jungle as possible, and then utilize Rift Herald top with Tryndamere and get Tryndamere fed. Because right now, as far as I can see, a fed Tryndamere appears to be your solid win condition. Because he's not dying to Garen, and he seems to have had a good early laning phase, has now hit level 5, which is important because now Tryndamere is an actual champion. Your bot lane is hemorrhaging. You want to spend 0 time in your bot lane because all they're doing is dying. So there is no point in you trying to get into your bot lane right now. Again, your Yasuo is doomed here. Yeah, just get some damage on the towers. Like, your Yasuo is giga doomed. Completely agree with this. You need to be very careful about how far you're pushed up. I mean, the Lee Sin's got 2 levels on you right now. You do not win these fights. Nice little dodge on the Jinx here, but you just need to go farm. Like, you just need to go farm some jungle. Fair enough, farm these camps if you want to. The blessing in disguise is that the enemy team has decided that apparently Infernal Dragon is not worth their time, and they're happy to just go farm their own jungle when these objectives are going on. Vayne and Senna, like I said, is a giga garbage lane. That's not your fault. That's just what happened in Champion Select. But again, there's not much you can do about it. What I would be doing is like thinking in my head, how do I set up my Tryndamere? Because Tryndamere is going to win you this game. I'm certain of it. I haven't watched this game yet, but I can very much tell you either win because Vayne gets late game or Tryndamere gets late game. And right now, Vayne's stuck in butt and is apparently AFK in base. Feels good, man. Your team is running it down right now. But the enemy team is kind of running it down because they're not focusing on objectives. Now, there are pings for them to go for the Infernal Drake. I think that's a relatively sensible play. They should have done this 1.5 minutes ago, realistically. So you've had 1.5 minutes. They're not even going for it. What are they doing? Like, just do the Infernal Drake. Do it a million minutes ago. Sorry, I shouldn't be rooting for the enemy team, but what are they doing? Okay, so Lee Sin's not actually at the Drake right now. He's doing his own Gromp. And we got a really nice condemn onto the... Oh my god, are they gonna give you Infernal Drake here? Okay, the Lee Sin didn't... Internally screaming. What did the enemy team just do? Like, they were so far ahead. Okay, right. Beyond that, great. That was good from you. Like, you exploited... You actually went for the objective. You get a double kill off the back of it as well. You actually went for the objective, which I massively value. Because, you know, end of the day, I understand why you didn't go for the objective for the first part. You were so far behind. Like, there's no way that you could start that. I don't know what the enemy team was doing. Lee Sin just apparently had no interest in being near the dragon, and Jinx and Seraphine wanted to do it themselves. Great job by you. Okay, the smite was 2 HP out, but I'm not gonna scold you for that. Great job by you to see an opportunity to secure an objective and take it. That is the mark of a jungler that is, you know, some good elements to their play. And I think, you know, although you had some pretty awkward early moments with priority, things that are going to win you games are things like objectives. And so you've obviously done, you know, a good early play to go for the objective. You've gone for Bloodthirster first on Graves. I can't see your items, but I can definitely see that you've gone for Bloodthirster. Interesting. I don't mind Bloodthirster, but most Graves right now go for like a Navori Quickblades build, which is like Navori Quickblades plus Charge Blade, or they go for Essence Reaver and Stormrazor. Beautiful stuff, though. Again, you're exploiting the fact that for some reason Lee Sin does not care about objectives, so you're going to go for the Rift Herald. I actually think you win these. Did Jinx just throw her ultimate? No, she didn't. Okay, fine. You don't win these. Never mind. I thought Jinx just threw her ultimate out a completely random direction, but she has got Infinity Edge. Yeah, I'm not totally sold on Bloodthirster as a first item. I would much prefer to see either Essence Reaver into Stormrazor, or you go Navori Quickblades. But obviously, you want to keep our eyes on. I think Tryndamere is getting pretty strong. He's somehow got a huge number of towers versus the enemy, and he's kind of dunking on kids right now. Although difficult if he gets caught out in a Lux binding to actually win that one. He ends up dying. Okay, they just got out-kited. I think, unfortunately, they walked on traps, and the Lux binding caught them. So not quite a strong enough position, and you are losing a lot of towers right now. So 7k gold down. That's not the best look in the world. I think you have the majority of your team's kills as well, which is pretty grim. At this point, you know, you're a late game scaling team. You're just going to want to look to try and get as much farm into your back pockets as possible. You are really far behind at this point. But I like what you're doing. You're just absorbing camps. You're taking farm from the lanes where you can, and just doing everything that you can to become as strong as possible. And if you want to solo carry, that's what you got to do. You've got to do everything that you can to become as strong as possible. Your bot lane is absolutely turbo sprinting it. They are going for the 100-meter world record in turbo sprinting this game. So is that Lux. But that's great, good play from you. This is really nice. Like, take out the Lux. You see the opportunity to break that mid lane tower. Graves takes tower super quickly. At this point, you can actually leave. The Garen's turned up. I would like to have seen left a little earlier, because the Rift Herald was very easily able to take that down, but you don't get punished for it, and that's great. Somehow, Tryndamere... I don't even know what I'm watching. Somehow, Tryndamere kills Lee Sin. No one defending top lane turret. But suddenly, some injections of gold going back your way as your bot lane continues their absolute marathon of sprinting into int. 0-6, Yasuo. Wait, Yasuo's run it down 10 times harder than anybody on the team. Like, what the is this Yasuo doing? 0-3 Vayne, 0-3 Senna. Your mental fortitude... Your mental fortitude is absolutely peak this game, because I would have been spamming FF for a long time ago. I commend you, Saggy Bear. I commend you and your mental fortitude. I'd love to see the items a little bit more, actually. If you are doing a Wild Rift Doctor video, I would prefer it if you keep items up at all points. Great flash. Force a flash out of the Jinx. Jinx's flash is worth way more than yours. Oh, wow. Right on top of her. This is why Graves is so strong now, by the way. And you are battering them. Absolutely battering them. Good play from you. I think you had a really rough early game, but what you've done and what I think people should take away from this is you've just kept your head in the game. You focused primarily on getting objectives, but more importantly, you focused on farming and getting experience and gold. Something that you will see a lot of people, especially junglers, and what this Lee Sin seemingly has failed to do pretty consistently this game. Lee Sin has randomly walked and helped lanes. He hasn't really farmed his own jungle very much. Whereas you have just been farming your own jungle wherever possible. You've actually been stealing farm away from the lanes. But that is okay, because if you think that you're in a position to carry, you should be absorbing as much experience as possible. So what you've done is you've put yourself 2 levels above pretty much anybody in the game. You are the highest level in the game because of how much experience that you have you've kind of picked up for yourself. And now you're just really strong. You've got a bit of an interesting ultimate, but you're really strong. You've got the core items that you need. And you're in a really good spot now. Senna is continuing her sprint to Wint, but you just deal so much damage at this point. Build up your grit stacks. I actually think you could have taken this fight if you jumped in onto the Jinx. You do so much burst damage right now. You've gone for the Solari Charge Blade, Navori Quick Blades here. Again, though, I think a lot of people do like the Essence Reaver build, but at least with this build, you do have a good amount of physical vamp in your kit, and you can actually see that at this point the Tryndamere. He's going for a very old school build, by the way. The Tryndamere is going for the kind of like the old Tryndamere build, which is not as popular right now. Interesting flash. I actually think Tryndamere wins this. Yeah, Tryndamere. I actually think you could have won this Tryndamere if you just keep slapping him on the head. You actually do. Yeah. It's like Tryndamere wins that. Like Lee Sin at this point is so weak. He definitely doesn't win this. Okay, let's recap. Bit of a rough early game. One of the big improvements that you can make from early game is understanding priority, understanding where the enemies are and how they can react to you, especially when you go for river scuttlers. But to be honest with you, what you've seemingly done beyond that has just been power farm your way, especially taking farm away from laners that have not been doing particularly well, like the Yasuo. You've had a great focus on objectives. You yourself have secured Infernal, Ocean, and Rift Herald for your team. And that is something that every jungler needs to be a little bit more aware about how to do, especially at the gold level. You saw the Lee Sin as a prime example of an absolutely trash tier jungler. Like, they could have taken Infernal at 4 minutes and you could have done nothing about it, but they gave you 1.5 minutes to scale up, get some more experience, get some more gold, and then for some reason they didn't even commit their jungler to the Infernal Dragon. You've been present for the objectives. And you have had an objective focus. Maybe not as quickly as you'd see some like diamond players do it, and some higher level players do it. But your objective focus has been good and has ensured that your team has stayed in a good spot. Great, honestly. Just the Graves is just so strong right now. Guys, if you want to play a really strong individual carry jungler, you're getting a good example of what Graves can do. Like, he has got so much burst damage, especially if you build that crit build with Navori Charge Blade, with Navori Quick Blades, Charge Blade, and something like Essence Reaver, or even Bloodthirster. I think Bloodthirster does work here. It does give you the life vamp necessary to kind of sustain yourself through some of these fights. I wouldn't say it's the regular Graves build right now, but it obviously has merit, as you can see. I'm not gonna knock it. It has clearly got merit. Static Shift coming out is an interesting choice. I'm guessing you just want that for the extra burst damage. But if I were you, I might have even gone for an Infinity Edge. I might have gone for like a Black Cleaver, for instance. Probably a GA, actually. If I'm honest with you, I probably would have gone for a GA as my 4th item. You don't really need 4 crit items if you're building Charge Blade, because you're going to get 100% crit naturally through Charge Blade, so you don't necessarily need 4 crit items. In fact, if anything, you're kind of wasting part of the passive of the Charge Blade. So a GA here would have been really nice, actually. Yeah, just look. Oh my god, it's not even funny. He tried to proto belt over the wall. Doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. Look at how ridiculous Graves' damage is now. You are at this point where you're just able to kind of outpace and outdamage pretty much anybody in this game. A large part of the reason is because, again, during that poor early game, and admittedly, the enemy team gave you the time to do this. The enemy team could have been much more lethal with those first few objectives, but they weren't. But just focusing objectives to give yourself those big team-wide buffs getting experience wherever you can, consistently farming your jungle camps when you had the rotational, when you had the ability to do so when they were up. And then just utilizing power spikes. One thing that I've noticed that you've done really well this game is when you've had a power spike. So when you've had like the Bloodthirster power spike or the Bloodthirster plus Solari Charge Blade power spike, you've actually looked for fights because you know that you're strong. And so something that is really intelligent that I've seen you do, and not a lot of people actually fail to do this at this level, is utilizing items power spikes and fighting when you have those particular power spikes, which is something that has been really impressive. There's the Black Cleaver and the Proto Belt. This build would have been great for me if you just replaced Static Shiv with Guardian Angel. I think you would have been in a great spot if you'd replaced Static Shiv with Guardian Angel. Something else that I see some people do is buy Duskblade or even Ghostblade, just something along those lines to give you some lethality and some extra damage. But everything in this build is fine except for the Static Shiv. I think I would have much preferred you go for the GA. I think you're actually strong enough to do... Yeah, okay, I don't agree with the Smite this early on, but I actually do think you're strong enough to do this Baron. I think don't bother trying to help out your Senna. You have to commit to the Baron at this point. Oh, have you got another smite? Yeah, you have. Soloed the Baron. That's how far ahead you are. Absolutely insane. Solo on the Baron here. Enemy team obviously had absolutely no vision. Have you got a sweeper trinket? I actually need to find out if you've got a sweeper trinket or not. Because that's something that, you know, definitely should be picked up in people's kits. God. Graves' lifesteal when you've got Bloodthirster and you have this much damage is absolutely disgusting. Now, they've picked up an inhibitor tower. The enemy team just not in position to respond. I love that you're committing to the inhibitor tower here. Great little flush out. But beyond your early game, you've played a really sensible game here. Garen just trying to get there, but you're just kiting back really nicely. You're going to have the lifesteal necessary. Oh, no. I mean, just go. Commit to the Lux, honestly. Once those skills are down, commit to the Lux. I actually think you can dash into her and win this fight, honestly. I know it's a little dangerous, but once Lux has used her 2 abilities, she doesn't really have any damage left. So I would have committed to the fight, honestly, if I were you. Damn. That was a comeback. You weren't wrong. That was absolutely a comeback. And honestly, it was all to do with you. I'm going to be completely real with you. That was a comeback that was all you. I think, you know, specifically at this stage in the game, you know, between here, you just, like, power farmed your way to a high level. You can see just, like, everything. If you just skip over these few minutes, all of it is just power farming. And this right here is fighting off an item spike. Again, the enemy team inted for the Infernal Dragon and let you get Rift Herald for free. But you had the presence of mind to make those plays. And I think that was really good. You know, you found good example of mental fortitude. Like, you obviously had a really, really rough bot lane, and it was a 0-6 Yasuo. Like, they were running it down this game, but you kind of put yourself in the zone, you farmed your way into a good spot, and you had good objective focus as a jungler, and that's fantastic. Really well done. This is a great episode, honestly. Really, really good episode, and a good example of how you can kind of dig yourself out of a hole despite having a pretty rough early game, which is exactly what can happen in Wildrift. So yeah, congratulations. Great video, and on a great game. I hope you can continue to climb. That's it, guys. If you want to submit a video to Wildrift Doctor, you can do it in my Discord via the Discord channel Wildrift Doctor. Make sure it is a video that is in general either a comeback or a loss, so we can talk about things that you can improve. I'm not gonna pick stomps. I'm not gonna pick videos where you're going 15-1 most of the time, unless it's a video that I've looked through and I think it's from some excellent play from yourself or from your team. They're not really fun to commentate on or analyze. So these are the kind of videos that I like, where there is something that you've done wrong, but you've done something incredibly right to get yourself back in the game. And I don't mind commentating over losses. You know, at the end of the day, it's how we learn, it's how we get better. So feel free to chuck them my way, and yeah, hopefully get some Wildrift Doctor back on the road.